Welcome to Mimio Training, Quick Learn On Demand, MimioStudio Basics 1, a tour of MimioStudio. In this session, we'll talk about how to access MimioStudio Notebook, how to access the MimioStudio Tools toolbar. We'll learn about the MimioStudio Notebook menu as well as the Tools toolbar. We'll get an overview of the MimioStudio tools, and we'll practice using some various MimioStudio tools. When you install MimioStudio, you get three different icons that will show up on your desktop if you're a Windows user. You'll see that the first one is the MimioStudio Notebook. This is a purple notebook file. Looks kind of like this one. This is the software that I'm using right now to present this session. So you double-click on that icon, and that will open a MimioStudio Notebook, just like what you see here, and you can use that to start creating lessons. The MimioStudio Tools icon is this set of tools right over here. So if you double-click on that icon, that's going to open up your MimioStudio Tools toolbar. And then finally, you have the green gradebook right down here. If you double-click on this icon, that's going to open up your MimioStudio gradebook, and that will be used with these various assessment tools and with Mimio Mobile, and as well as with MimioVote. So you use the MimioStudio gradebook to keep track of grades. When you are in MimioStudio Notebook, then you'll see you've got a menu across the top of your screen right up here. So let's zoom in on that and take a little closer look. This first icon is the Open icon. You click on that, and you can open up a file from your computer. It opens up your file browser. You double-click on the one that you want, and then you're set to go. When you click on the Save button, then that's going to save your file and the work that you've done. You can print your MimioStudio Notebook and create paper copies for your students or for your substitute teacher or for yourself. Cut, copy, paste are all available up here as buttons. If you have something on your clipboard that you want to paste, then you can click on the Paste button. Copy and cut work the same way, and that makes it that puts it onto the clipboard on your computer, and then you're able to use them in different places. You also have a shortcut to a Delete button. If you select an object and then click on the red Delete, that's going to delete that object, whatever it is that you have on your computer or that you're showing on your screen. The Undo and the Redo buttons are two of my favorites. Say I accidentally delete something that I didn't want to, I can just click on my Undo button, and then the last action that I did is undone. If I want to redo it, then I can click on the button next to that. This button will give a new page in your document. You'll see over here on the right-hand side of my screen, I've got all of my pages. We'll talk about this right-hand side in just a little bit. But that's how you'd add a new page to your document. We have a new activity button as well. This is covered in another Quick Learn session, how you can use activities to engage your students. Next to that, you have a Collaborate button, and like I said, both of those are covered in different Quick Learn sessions. You can learn about the Activity Wizard in MimioStudio Basics 3, and you can learn about the Collaborate button in Mimio Go's Mobile. Previous page and next page, this allows you to navigate through your file quickly and easily. Just use these buttons right up here, and then that'll take you one to the next page or to the previous page. Zoom in, out, and full. You may have noticed that I've been using the Zoom Full button quite a bit. When we use that, then that makes our screen take up our full. We'll zoom out to the entire page so it can view the whole thing. Then next to that, we have a full screen button that gets rid of the toolbars on the top, and then if you have anything on the bottom as well, it'll get rid of that. Down here in the lower right-hand corner, see we've got a couple of other tools right down here. If you double-click on any of these, they're going to access those different tools. So if I double-click on this icon, that's going to bring up my gallery. I can double-click here for another way to access my toolbar, this one right over here. I can double-click on the wrench to access my settings, and then you also see that there's a page 1 of 1. It tells us how many pages we are into our document and into the file that we're working in. Continuing on then, when you are in your MimioStudio software, on the right-hand side of the screen, as it is right here, we have a thumbnail view, and we also have a file attachments view. So if you click on this icon right here, this one with the 4 squares, that is the thumbnail view that allows you to navigate through your slides quickly and easily. If I just go over here into my thumbnail view, I can click on number 4 here, and then you see I go back to page 4. If I click on 5, then that takes me back to page 5. So it's a quick and easy way to navigate through your through your slides. If you click on the folder icon, the one right next to that, then that's going to look at your file attachments. These are files that are copied into your ink file itself. That makes it easy for you to access them at a later time and keep everything kind of in one place. Down here in the right-hand corner then, you have a drag and drop trash can. That's another way to delete objects that you want to get rid of on your page. So you can simply select them, drag them down here into the trash can, and then they get thrown away and they are deleted from your page. To access your MimioStudio toolbar, there are a whole bunch of different ways, and it really depends on what your preference is and how you want to get at them. A couple of different ways that we can do this, like I said. First of all, you could go into your menu, click on Tools, and then select MimioStudio Tools right over here. So if I click on my Tools, and I click on my tools right here, then that's going to show or hide my tools as they are over here. Of course, there's also, like I mentioned before, the MimioStudio Tools desktop icon. If you double-click on that, that's going to open up your tools and make them available for you again. If you are using a MimioTeach, then by default, the B button, the top button, the one with the little ridge on it, will show or hide your tools. So if you click on that button on your stylus, that will bring your tools up, and it'll also hide them again. If you double-click on this icon right down here in the tray, then this will also give you access to your tools. You can also use the launch button on your MimioTeach, bring up the launch menu, and then click on tools from there. So you've got a lot of different ways that you can access your tools if you want to, if they're getting in the way, or if you want to hide them and bring them back. My favorite tool, or my favorite tip for using the MimioStudio toolbar is to collapse and expand it. So if you double-click on the paintbrush, just like this, then your tools collapse. And then if you double-click on the paintbrush again, you can see that your tools come back. So this is a really great way to keep your screen free of some distractions and maybe get those windows out of your way a little bit. So double-click on the paintbrush to expand it. Now let's talk about some of the tools that are available in MimioStudio. First thing that I want to talk about is the selection tool. The selection tool looks like this. It's the arrow in the upper left-hand corner of your tools. What this allows you to do is select objects that are selectable and interact with things that you can interact with on your screen. So right down here I have a reveal. If I were to click on that, I can bring that out, and then I can bring it back in again. I would use the selection tool to access that. So your selection tool is your default tool, your basic tool for interacting with content on the screen. Next to that, you have zoom in, out, and full. You may have seen me using this tool a little bit during the other parts of the session. The way that this works is you select your zoom tool, and then you click and drag to select an area to zoom in on. And as soon as I let go of my mouse button, I zoom in on that area, and that fills up as much of my screen as I want it to. When I'm done with that, then I can click and hold on this, and anytime you see a little arrow in the corner, that means you have more options. So if I click and hold on that one, I can select zoom full, and that brings me all the way out back to my full-size screen. So not only can I use these buttons to zoom, but I can also use my zoom tool by press and hold, and then I have zoom in, out, and full. Next tool is the pen or the brush tool. The pen, once again, you see right here. I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see it a little bit better. There's a little bit of an arrow on there. That means that we have additional options. So if I press and hold on the pen tool, you see I get the pen and I also get the brush. When I select the pen, you see I've got a color selection right here, and then I've also got a thickness slider, so I can adjust how thick my color is. And then I also have some basic colors right here, some black and red and green, blue, white, yellow, and then this is transparent. But if I click on this next box, that brings up my basic colors from my system palette, and I can go even further than that. If I click on Define Custom Colors, you'll see that I get all of the colors that my computer is capable of generating. So I have a lot of different options for how I can write with that. If I draw a line across here, then you see that I've got a little bit of a thickness to it. But if I move my slider a little bit further to the right, that's going to make it an even thicker line. So you can use that as a way to change the way that you're writing and what it is that you're putting on your screen. If I click on the brush tool, the only difference between the pen tool and the brush tool is that the pen uses a circle and the brush tool uses an oval. So if I wanted to do something maybe a little bit fancier, I can do that with my brush tool. You see that it gets the thickness of the line adjusts based on how I'm writing on the screen. So that's the pen and the brush tool. Next, underneath that is the highlighter tool. Highlighter tool works just like the pen and the brush tool. The only difference is that it has some opacity set with it already. So if I take my highlighter tool and I write across here, you see I can write over something and still see through it after I've written over it. I would not be able to do that with the pen or the brush tool. Highlighter, once again, you have all of the different options for colors that you can use. You can go into your system palette and you can select another color if you want to. It's totally up to you. You have complete control over that and customizability with that. Underneath the highlighter tool is the eraser tool. The eraser tool is going to give you the ability to erase digital ink. So anything that you write with the highlighter, as well as what you write with the pen or the brush tool, you can erase using the eraser. Here again, we have the thickness slider. We can adjust that. So if we want to erase thick or if we want to erase thin, we can make that adjustment based on what our needs are at the current time. And like you see here, we have, once again, this thickness slider. This is where our color is. We use the pen, the highlighter, and the line tool to pick our colors. Once again, we have our custom color palette available. And then the eraser gives us the ability to change the thickness using that thickness slider. The text tool in MimioStudio Toolbar has a lot of flexibility with the way that you can use it. When you click on the text button to create a text box, you get a box that shows up on your screen, and then you have these options. So here, the first one is the font style. This is any font that you have installed on your computer you have access to in MimioStudio. So if you like to use fancy fonts, you have that option. You can go in here and pick whatever you have available on your computer. Do keep in mind that if you use a special font or something that's not standard to your system, and you transfer your file to another computer, if that font is not installed, then something else is going to be substituted for that. You also want to keep in mind that you want to keep in mind the readability of the fonts that you use. If you're using a very decorative font, sometimes those can be very hard to read, so use those sparingly and with good purpose. Next to that, we have our font size. We have anywhere from 8 to 72 point font that we can type in. So you can change the size of your font like that. Bold, italics, and underline are typical formatting options available for text. Superscript and subscript. Superscript would make like an exponent, and then a subscript would make like a sub number for like a chemical equation or something like that. If you wanted to make H2O, you could select the 2 and make that a subscript, and then it'll go down and it'll look the way that it's supposed to look. You have the next 3 buttons are the alignment. You have align left, center, and right. And that alignment is based within the text box itself. Not on the page. There isn't. You don't align it on the page, but you align it with the text box. So if I were to create a text box right down here, and then set it to align center, then it'll be in the center of that text box. Of course, you have bullets. You can add bullets to your text right here. And then next to that is the color options. If you click on that, that brings up all of your system palette once again. And you can go into your custom colors. You can find all of those if you want. And that's going to change the color of the font as you're typing it. All right, so just a little demonstration of the toolbar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a text box. I'm going to write Mimio will change my world. I'm going to change the word Mimio to a purple color, and then I'm going to select the word world and increase the size and change it to bold. So I've got my text tool. I'm going to click right over here, and I'm just going to click in there to create my text box. I'm going to change it to size 36. Mimio will change my world. And now I want to change the word Mimio to a purple color, so I'm going to select it here in my text box. Click on my color icons, or my color options here. Click on purple, click OK, and now Mimio is purple. And now I want to take the word world, and I want to turn that into a bigger font size and make it bold. So I'm going to click on bold here, and then I'm going to make it a bigger font size, and there we go. We're all set. So we can change the format of our words. We can change the way that they appear within the text box. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is that when you click to create a text box, then your text box is going to keep on going for as long as you have that text box. So you can press enter and it'll make a new line, and there's no word wrapping in there. But if you were to define the length of your text box, then the words will wrap automatically. So if I go in here and I start typing, you'll see that I got to the edge of the box, so it created a new line and it wrapped it around. I can also adjust this property, or the properties of this, if I wanted to. I can expand it a little bit so that it fits what I want it to do. The line styles, shape tools, and transparency tools are up next. Underneath the text tool, you have the line and shape tool. Once again, it has an arrow on it, so if you press and hold on it, or if you right-click on it, you're going to get additional options. We have options for lines that we can create, so we can make just a plain old ordinary line. We can have an arrow at the end, an arrow at the start, or an arrow at both ends. We also have different shapes that we can make with this. So we have a rectangle, ellipse, triangle, right triangle, five-pointed star, hexagon, or pentagon that we can make just by a click and a drag. And then there's also the shape recognition tool. We'll come back to that one in just a little bit. Besides the shapes that we can make, we also have some additional color and transparency options. So right here, we have two different boxes. This is telling us about the colors that we're working with. And I will bring up a little box right here that explains that a little bit more. So the exterior color, this is the color of the line. And then the interior color is the color inside the lines. So you have two different color options. You can tell which one is selected by a little black border that shows up around it. So you see right here on the exterior color, this has a black border around the box, and this has a white border around the box. If I were to switch to try to change the background color, then I click on this black area right here, and then this will turn into a black border, and this will turn into a gray border, so I know that I've got that selected. You still have access to your custom color palette, like I said before. And you can also adjust the thickness of the line, just like you can with the pen or the brush tool, or with the eraser tool or the highlighter tool. Then you have additional options for your line style. So you can have it be a solid line, it can be a dashed line, or it can be a square dot line. And this is the border of the shape that you're working with as well. So it's either your line or the border of your shape. And then you can also adjust the transparency. So you can have it be completely opaque. You can't see through it at all. Or you can go all the way up to 90% opaque. So that means that it's just barely there. You can hardly see that it's there at all. So let's just show you how this whole thing can work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this space right over here. I'm going to recreate this image, and using 4 different objects: a rectangle, a text box, a line, and a star. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and select my rectangle tool. Make sure I've got that. It's got a black border, so I'm going to change from red to black. And I'm going to keep my thickness slider right about here. I also have a dashed line as my border, so I'm going to switch from solid to dash. Now if I click and drag across here, I've got my square kind of started here. I'm going to go back to my selection tool because I noticed that maybe I need to make my line, my border a little bit thicker. So I can just select it and change the thickness of my border, and that looks pretty good to me. So I think I'm going to keep that one, and we'll move on to the next step. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to create a red line across the middle. So I'm going to go in here, select my line, and now I'm going to change that to red, adjust my thickness down a little bit, and I can click and drag across to create a line. Here again, I've got to change my line style, so I can just click on my line, click on my line style, change it to solid, and now those properties are changed. And maybe I want to make it just a little bit thicker. All right. Next step is I want to write the word star in orange capital letters. So I'm going to click in here. I'm going to write the word star, select my text, underline it, Make sure it's already bold. It looks like it is. And I'm going to click over here, change it to orange. Click OK. Go back to my selection tool and move this into the right place. Looks pretty good to me. I think we'll keep that one. Finally, I need to make a star, so I'm going to click on my line tool, click and hold, go down to my 5-pointed star. We'll change our line border to solid. And then the color of our border needs to be yellow, and the color of our fill needs to be blue. So we click on this box right here, change it to blue. Now I go down here, I'm going to create my star. And looks pretty good. Maybe I need to adjust the thickness a little bit of the border. And I think I'm all set. So I've created all of my objects. Looks like I'm good to go. Shape recognition allows you to transform simple shapes that are drawn by hand into perfect shapes that you can edit. The way that you can access your shape recognition tool, a couple of different ways. You can go into your shapes tool, click on shape recognition, and then that gives you the shape recognition tool. The other thing that you can do is you can write by hand. You can write a shape and then select it and go up to Tools and go to Recognize Shapes. Or what you can do is you can select your shape once again, right-click, and go to Recognize Shapes. All of those are going to do the same thing. And when you do that, it turns it into a perfect shape that I can now edit. I can change its properties. I can make it thicker or thinner. I can change the fill that's inside of it. So I have lots of things that I can do with my shape now that I've got it made. So we'll use the shape recognition to draw a couple of shapes on here. First of all, I'm going to switch to my shape recognition tool. And I'm going to outline this window. We've got, we'll keep that way. So I'm going to outline this window. I draw my rectangle, not completely perfectly around it, but as soon as I let go of it, it turns it into a perfect rectangle. Next thing I want to do is I want to select my pen tool, and let's go in an oval around this thing. Go back to my select tool, right-click, and then go to Recognize Shapes, and it turns it into a circle for me. So I'm good to go there. So a couple of different ways that we can use the shape recognition tool to kind of clean things up. The color picker and object fill are two really handy tools for when you're working on designs and on layout. So the color picker will let you grab and view any color on your screen and apply it to objects. You can pick anything that is displayed on your screen and pick that color. So for example, I have my pen tool right here, and I want to pick up this color purple that I've got displayed on my screen. So I've already got my pen tool selected. I'm going to click on my color picker. Notice that my toolbar hides, and I get this little eyedropper, and that eyedropper has a circle kind of coming off of it. So right there, you see I've got that circle has turned purple. That's telling me which color I have selected right now. As soon as I click on it then, you'll see that I've got that color purple right here available for my pen tool. If I wanted to do a different kind of a color, I could just go over here, and let's say I wanted to grab something off of another thumbnail. I can click on it there. You see, now it's got that gray color. So I can use that as a way to quickly pick out a color that I have on my screen, especially if it's a custom color, if I want to do something that matches something that I'm already working on. Object fill allows you to fill entire objects with a color, and also lets you apply it to a background. So when you select the object fill, you click wherever it is that you want it to fill in the color, and you'll notice MimioStudio tools are great. We've got a little prize hidden right there. This is only going to work on unlocked objects and text boxes or on your backgrounds. So do keep that in mind. You can't use your object fill on everything necessarily, but if it's an unlocked object that I can move around and manipulate, then I can use my object fill on it and fill it in. There are a bunch of other tools on the MimioStudio toolbar. You have the Insert File or Screen Clipping button. That one is covered in MimioStudio Basics 3. You have the MimioStudio Gallery. MimioStudio Basics 2 Quick Learn session is all about the gallery, so you can learn about that in a different session. The applications are right over here. Lots of different applications that are accessible in the software. You can learn about the Reveal and Spotlight tools in Intermediate 3. Text tools are covered in MimioStudio Advanced. Mimio Goes Mobile talks about the Class Manager, Control, and Quick Collaborate. MimioVote will talk about the Quick Vote feature. MimioStudio Advanced, once again, covers Recorder. If you want to learn about the view, there's another on-demand session where you can learn about that. And then the Calculator, Magnify, and Web Browser tools are all covered in Intermediate 3. Over here then, we have some additional tools. We have a right-click mouse button, so if you're up at the board and you want to right-click, then you can click on that and then click on your board. That's a right-click. Interactive mode is going to allow you to calibrate your screen, so that's a shortcut to get at that. You have underneath that then the bottom two buttons, you have Enter Screen Annotation Mode and Exit Screen Annotation Mode, or going to mouse mode. Those are both covered in the MimioStudio Intermediate 3. So you can learn more about the other tools in other Quick Learn sessions. Here are some extension activities for you to try. These, and I'm going to send you a file right now. This file will have some directions for you to follow, a few tasks to do, and you'll be able to take those opportunities to practice and look and hone your skills a little bit and learn more about how you can use these tools to create different objects in your lessons. Also going to send you a reference card pack. Has a lot of information about things that I've been covering during the entire session. So you'll have a document that you can refer back to and take a look at those as a way to kind of refresh your memory as you're going through some of these things, like what do these buttons do and that kind of thing. Mimio training resources available at mimio.com. You have reference guides, video tutorials, user guides, other Quick Learn recordings. You can also register for a live Quick Learn session where you can interact with the trainer and other people as well to learn more about how to use your MimioStudio software. Mimio Connect is our interactive teaching community with free educational teacher-created resources that are aligned to state and Common Core standards. It's a large, active online community with Mimio Masters who can answer your questions directly. If you haven't already, I very strongly encourage you to join us at mimioconnect.com. Mimio Classroom set of products. You can learn more about these by contacting your local sales rep or reseller. You could also go to mimio.com, learn more there, and you can also call us on the phone at 877-MyMimio. Here's a link to an assessment that you can take. I'll be dropping this in the chat box. You'll be able to see that over there on the left-hand side of your screen. This assessment will give you a certificate that may qualify you for an hour of professional development credits in your state or district. So very strongly encourage you to check that out and prove that you know your stuff when it comes to Mimio. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you can contact us at training@mimio.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/mimio.technology. Watch us on YouTube, and of course, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/mimiotechnology. Thank you.